My name is Luba Sasowski, and I'm the founder, CEO of Wax Hair Removal Bar. I was a caregiver to my mother for over 8 years. My business is international in Canada and the US. I travel every 2 weeks. And when I was a caregiver, my mother traveled with me every 2 weeks. Planes, trains, and automobiles, pretty much. She was a very friendly person when she was diagnosed, almost like childlike behavior, but I was able to really take her anywhere with me and she wasn't problematic. If she was at the front desk waiting for me in the customer waiting area, we would set her up with coloring books and crayons while she would wait. She would mostly break out into song and dance when our clients would come in and want to give them hugs, and the disease made her very friendly, and I was very grateful for that because it just made the caregiving so much easier. Before she was diagnosed, it wasn't that easy. Growing up with my mother, she was very stubborn, a very hard woman. She was an immigrant to this country and she worked very, very hard. She instilled hard work ethic into me at a very, very young age. And most of the time I was absolutely petrified of her, mostly to disappoint her. So the type of woman my mother was that if I brought home 98% on a test, the first question was, why wasn't it 100? So that's what it was like growing up with my mother.
Do you love me?
A lot.
How much?
Det depende på mordet, på rådet.
How much do you love me?
$1 million.
I like $1 million. I love $1 million too.
Once the disease hit, but I didn't know what it was or what signs to look for, she became extremely argumentative and very aggressive. I'll never forget spending a Christmas with her, and we usually didn't spend Christmases together, but this year I wanted to spend it with her. And I saw her bent over the kitchen sink crying, and she was crying because she had lost a child before I was born, and he had passed away unexpectedly on Christmas Eve. So she was crying over the sink and she was sobbing, and I came to her and I tried to console her and put my hand on her back and I asked what was wrong, and she said to me, I miss Peter. And I said, I can imagine that you do and how hard this time is. And she turned to me and she told me to leave. And she told me that she didn't want me to be there and that she would rather him be there and that I should leave. And when you don't know that someone is sick and something like that happens, it's devastating to you as a person, as a daughter. My mother was my only family. I didn't have any aunts or uncles, brothers, sisters. My dad had passed when I was 13. So that was very, very difficult to hear. That behavior continued. Phone calls late at night, messages that she was leaving, that it was my fault that it had rained or that it had snowed, things that just didn't make any sense. I lost my mother, pretty much. And I remember going to the doctors with her and them not really being able to diagnose her until she came out to a larger city where I was living, and we got some real help from some real doctors that were able to tell us that it was dementia. But during that year, we probably didn't speak the entire time, and the behavior was just so changed. I also remember neighbors calling me saying that she was leaving the stove on, letting the water boil over, things like that, and that's where I thought that, okay, this is probably dementia or Alzheimer's, and it made it a little bit easier to deal with the things that she was saying and calling and leaving messages about, but it was still exceptionally hurtful. My mother only became angry and frustrated with the full diagnosis when she didn't know where she was, or at the beginning of the disease where she knew that something was changing in her and something was wrong, but she couldn't explain why. And one of the things that she would say to me is she would look at me and she would say, "Do you think I want to be like this? Do you think I want to be stupid? I used to run my own business. I used to be successful. This is not me." So she knew that there was a change in her. She just didn't know what it was or why it was happening. I started to get involved with the Alzheimer's Association in Las Vegas in 2017. They were my go-to. I wanted to have a charity of choice for my business. That was very, very important to me. We do other fundraising opportunities as well as an annual brunch every year with silent auction. We also have products that we sell in store where 50% of the proceeds goes towards the charity so we can give back. Every year I close down the store and my entire staff walks together for this cause. It's very important to me and my business. It's important to have a charity of choice as a small business, and that's why I have chosen the Alzheimer's Association. And I also want to continue to honor my mom's legacy in one day of possibly finding a cure for this awful disease. I encourage all of my staff to partake in the walk and support in any way that we can through in-store promotions, collecting donations, and walking together as a team. We hope to see you there. I love you, Mom.